India was once known to have the highest population of vultures in the world. However, over the last few decades, there has been a catastrophic decline in the vulture population, mainly in the Gibbs family. This steep decline has placed the breed of Asian vultures on the edge of extinction.
In the past probably decade and a half, there's been probably, if not the fastest, but one of the fastest declines of wildlife species ever recorded in the Gibbs vultures of South Asia.
In early 90s, it was Bombay National History Society who discovered the threat which loomed over this breed. The Gibbs vultures were the victims of an unnatural death. A decade of intensive research revealed the mystery behind these deaths. Scientists from Pakistan, led by late J. Lindsay Oaks from Washington State University, along with the Peregrine Fund, identified a killer drug as the cause of these deaths. Diclofenac, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, was then widely used on the cattle, cheap and effective solution for the pain relief. Further research showed that even small quantities of diclofenac in the vulture's food could lead to its kidney failure.
A drug, diclofenac, which is given into the cows, and if they die within 72 hours and the vultures eat that meat, then it basically stops their kidneys from working.
But the discovery was too late. By then, vulture population in the Indian subcontinent declined by more than 90%. The Asian vultures were struggling for their existence. In the Indian subcontinent, it is an age-old practice to throw dead domestic animals in the dump yards. With the growing absence of the vulture breed, the feral dogs replaced them in the scavenging role. However, the consequences were alarming. The dogs were now the main carrier of rabies, and this making the villagers worried too. Compared to their canine counterparts, the vultures fed on the dead animals faster and left little scope of spreading foul smell and disease. Ironically, the bird that helped clear the environment was now facing a survival threat due to this man-made drug. Now, the question arises, are we making sufficient efforts to stop this? The Indian government, along with the Wildlife Department, took immediate steps to mitigate the effects once the cause was identified. The Gibbs vulture was brought under Category Species 1 in 2002, implying maximum protection of this species. Dr. Manmohan Singh, Prime Minister of India, issued a ban on diclofenac on 17 March 2005. This was resonated in the actions of the Drug Controller General and the Department of Animal Husbandry to phase out the usage of the drug in veterinary healthcare. Similar actions were taken by Pakistan, Nepal and Bangladesh to help conserve the Gibbs vulture. Many NGOs too rallied their support for this cause. Mahashir Conservancy, an NGO near Corbett National Park in India, had begun a battle on diclofenac removal to help vulture conservation since 2009. "74% of the Indian population resides in villages. This rural population is heavily dependent on livestock for their living. Even single household usage of diclofenac on its cattle can prove to be fatal for the vultures. Mahashir Conservancy is helping spread awareness among the local veterinary doctors regarding diclofenac and suggesting the safer alternative, meloxicam.
Our entire campaign is focused on the issue of diclofenac. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to assess from the Tarai Bhabar landscape of our area, which covers district Nainital, district Almora, Udham Singh Nagar, and the adjoining areas. The idea is to find out how much the diclofenac is in use.
Mahashir Conservancy has come up with the innovative awareness programs. They're arranging TV shows which are helping villagers to understand the menace created by diclofenac on our environment. The NGO is also using tableaus to communicate with the villagers and gather their support in this struggle against the deadly drug. Spreading the awareness amongst the villagers is the only way to take this task heads on. Not only spreading awareness, they are also actively monitoring the health of the existing vultures in that area. They track the nests, the vulture colonies, as well as the breeding cycle.
नंबर 1, T2, T1, T3 इस तरह से हर पेड़ में हमने मार्क किया हुआ है ताकि मॉनिटरिंग के लिए हमें सुविधा होती है.
A task force has also been formed to provide information about the sick vultures. Once information comes, the team rushes for rescue. They provide initial treatment before the bird is moved to Nainital Zoo for extensive treatment in case of fatal illness. In order to ensure that no incident of a sick vulture goes unnoticed, local children are trained to watch out for abnormal behavior of any vulture.
सबसे पहले घोष जी को फ़ोन करेंगे और या पहले देखेंगे कि गिद्ध क्या हुआ है, क्या चीज़ है, गिद्ध कैसे गिरा, पहले देखेंगे भी और घोष जी को फ़ोन भी करेंगे.
In our area, we have hope. You see, there were some breeding colonies in our area. Hence, there was hope.
But vulture on occasion can fly more than 100 kilometers for food hunt. So removing diclofenac from a small area will not mean the vultures are safe. In today's scenario, one Mahashir Conservancy is not enough to save these species. But many more organizations have to prolong their support to ensure a viable effect on the vulture population. Alongside, the Bombay National History Society is working on captive breeding program of the gyps vulture in other parts of India. With their help, 3 captive breeding centers are functional at Pinjore in Haryana, Rajabhat Khawa in West Bengal, and Rani Forest in Assam. The Pioneer Vulture Conservation Breeding Center, or VCBC at Pinjore, currently has 57 white-backed, 58 long-billed, 18 slender-billed, and 2 Himalayan griffons, a total 135 of gyps vultures in the captivity. The Vulture Center is equipped with modern infrastructure. It has a treatment room for the sick vultures, a postmortem room to analyze the cause of the death of the vultures, and research labs where the scientists are continuously working on the captive breeding program. Aviaries have been built to provide the birds plenty of space and an artificial environment to help build up the colonies. There are CCTV cameras inside the aviaries which help monitor the vulture movements. To help the vultures adapt in the wilderness, once released in future, the aviaries are furnished with tree branches, artificial water holes, and cliffs. Another path-breaking experiment was double clutching. The vulture by nature lays just 1 egg per breeding cycle. Scientists in VCBC remove that egg and placed it in an artificial incubator for hatching. The egg cracked with lots of promise and gave birth to a healthy baby. Surprisingly, the same vulture laid another egg in the same breeding cycle. The success of this experiment gave hope in increasing the count of this nearly extinct breed. The vulture pairs residing in the wilderness are also making their courtship couple. They are preparing for a successful breeding process. The mother is busy making the nest ready for the next generation. A successful breeding cycle would lift this dark loom that hangs over their heads. These chicks, looking out from the nest, are the rays of hope for the new future of these diminishing scavenger birds.
There is hope for these birds because we do know the cause of this decline. There is a complete ban on the use of the drug, and the use is stopped in the wild. It's likely that the birds could come back, maybe not to the numbers that they were historically, but certainly to a viable population which would be self-sustaining.
Vultures do not attract our attention through their looks, but are imperative for the well-being of the human race. They have served the human race for a very long time. So should we not shoulder the responsibility to make a safer world for them? It is not enough to ban diclofenac manufacture or its import, but a complete phase-out of this drug is a must. Even for the human usage, as the human diclofenac are still being used on the cattle, resulting on the vulture's death. If we help provide a chance, these birds will survive this tough battle of existence. We must not forego that hope. Let us all take a pledge today that we will do all that we can to help this breed not to vanish from the blue skies. The skies are calling these birds to come home where they belong.